my experience buying stuff for you has gotten harder over the years. Um,
Oh, that's a question right there. Because you said that it's gotten harder to buy stuff from me over the years. What do you mean exactly with that? Like, what's it? Why is it so hard to buy me stuff?
but you know why.
But
But
they don't.
yes,
I-
but it is gotten harder not just because everything that you want is more expensive now, but it's gotten harder because I can't surprise you because I feel that I can't just go ask for something. And generally, the people either at Best Buy, GameStop, anywhere, Micro Center, anything that has to do with gaming, computing, computers, and all that, I just don't feel like they help me make the best purchase. So sometimes I feel like if I mess up and they don't tell me the whole story or what I can take advantage, then I might not be able to return it later on. Because I know some stuff can't be returned, or there's speculations of how to return it, or there's a fee, or I might just order the wrong thing.
Mhm.
Um, your collector's edition. There's so many. So I've learned over the years that it's either PlayStation or GameStop. I'm not PlayStation or Xbox, sorry. One of those two.
Mhm.
That's what you go for. But if they're not available, they don't try to tell me like, oh, well, we don't have it anymore here, but you can still order it through the vendor, right? Through whoever makes the game.
Mhm.
No, they'll try to sell me, oh, but you can order the computer version. I'm like, but he doesn't like the computer version. Where can I get the other one? It just stops there. Like they don't try to help me make that purchase. Um, controllers. The controllers, you I've gotten pretty good at taking pictures or screenshotting what you show me so that way I know. And even though I show people like, hey, this is what I'm looking for, like, no, they don't make that. Like, I'm showing you a picture. Like, I'm literally showing you this is what I want. No, you're mistaken. This is what you want. It's like, no.
And it's been so interesting because how you say it that way, because I know we can have a conversation about like how customer service is just up and down for a lot of different things. But like every time when you tell me of the trials and tribulations that you have to get like a one particular thing, it's always outside of just being straight up funny. It's always fantastically interesting that instead of trying to just say like, hey, it's out of stock, or let me look it up, you're like, oh, I don't see anything, maybe I'm just not, maybe we don't sell it, blah blah blah. It's always like they spend more time trying to gaslight you to believe something else,
Mm,
or just to be like, oh, we want to stop you from making this purchase, or we want to say, well, you want this instead, this is this is what you really want,
yeah.
even though you even show proof of what it is that you want. Like I think the last time I had you go, just stop by and just do the pre-order for one of the collector's editions, and it was just the fact that he was just trying to convince you of like, no, this isn't, you don't want this, buy the
Oh,
just the digital version, you just want all the digital stuff, and you were all like, no, because that's not what we want. If it's not there, there's no point of us pre-ordering it. But they were still trying to get yourself to do other stuff.
well, I got kind of a little upset because you would think they would want to upsell, but they
Hmm.
were really like, well, why would you want to pay $300 for that? Well, I don't really know because I don't really know what the collection is, but I know that's what you want. So I am trying to spend money here. Why are you underselling me?
And I think the problem was that they weren't even looking
Mm.
at, or even looking up the product. They was just kind of like, oh, well, you don't want to buy that. And they didn't try to see if they had it. They didn't try to see if they had it in stock, or was like, because if they didn't have it in stock, that stops the conversation right then and there. Like, okay, well, I'll have to look at something else for now, or think about something else. It was the fact that they just didn't want you to even consider it. And then they were trying to push you to something else and just have you get that sell. And I would just, I feel like in some cases that's a little bit more disrespectful just because it's kind of like, even if they were trying to tell you why it was a bad purchase, if they were trying to explain a way to kind of make you more believe that it was a bad purchase, or more like, hey, these are the kind of examples of other people were saying, I don't think it's really going to be worth it. Maybe you should probably tell them to think about it. We'll still do it, but you should probably rethink the purchase. Then I would at least say that they were trying to help you make an informed decision
Yeah,
on
give
the
me the
purpose.
the pros and cons of like, hey, it's not just the price, but it's really not worth it. It doesn't come with the statue, it doesn't come with this, or if
Mm,
they were to tell me that, then yeah, I would probably think about it a little bit. But when they're really not giving me any information, um Best Buy, when I bought you the Elite controller, I
mhm,
didn't want to just buy you the black Elite controller. I wanted the Gears of War Elite controller. And Best Buy was like, no, you buy that controller and here's the accessories. And I'm like, but that one doesn't have the cool scratch. That's the one I'm looking for. I'm looking for the maroon one. They're
mhm,
like, no, they don't make that. And I got really upset at that point because they just kept pushing the other one on me, and I was like, I I've seen it. I've looked at the pictures. This is what I want. And you're literally me telling me that it does not exist and giving me buttons. I'm like, I don't care about the buttons. I
mhm,
don't care to buy the button. It's not going to look as cool as the one that I saw. And that's the one I want to get him. So I just felt like, okay, well, I'll just leave. But they weren't really willing to say, we don't carry it. That's a special edition for GameStop.
mhm,
They weren't willing to say that, right? Because at least I would have given them the credit of like, okay, they're telling me that GameStop had that as a special edition, but I'll go back to Best Buy if I can't find that one and buy the black one.
yeah.
But at that point, I'm like, no, you're just literally calling me a liar when I'm showing you proof that it does exist.
So it was kind of like in a way where you were trying to, you were trying to buy something, and the story should have been like, well, I understand that you want to buy this particular thing. We don't have it, but I think maybe if you go to GameStop, they may have it. That's kind of what it should have been, but what instead was like, you don't know what you're talking about. That's a fake image. That's fake news, whatever it's called. And here, this is what you want. Please take this and buy this. And I just feel like that was probably the worst. Like, I could see where that conversation could have still been helpful, but not disrespectful. And I hate the fact that it went to the, like, literally far left of
Mm,
the conversation. It was just straight up like,
no.
you don't, like, we know more than you. You want the wrong thing. Buy this, or else it's not gonna what you're gonna buy. And I just feel like it's weird that yeah, they gave you an option, but they gave you an option saying that no, this is the only option. There's nothing else. So it just shows kind of like a lack of just being informed about what you were looking for, and them not admitting it, but them still wanting to try to save the sale.
Yeah, and I just feel it's more of they don't want to, I guess, I understand that giving business to another competition, but it's sometimes it works to have that relationship with customers where you can say like, well, we don't carry it,
Hmm.
but you can find it. You can probably find it here, here, and here, right? It makes you feel better coming back to that store than them calling you a liar.
Do you feel that, and I think Angel DCX put it out there, do you feel like it's because you're a female that they treated you like that?
I hate to say it, but yes, like I understand that I come in not knowing a lot about the games, not maybe not knowing exactly what I'm looking for. It's called. That's why I'm good at taking pictures, screenshotting stuff, taking notes of what you say. But I feel like I still come off of like I really don't know the whole background or what I'm looking for, and they're not really willing to help me out. And they just take it like, oh well, she's a girl, she doesn't play games, so she doesn't really know. She's just looking to buy a gift. So that would do fine.
And how many times do you feel like you kind of run into that when you're just either trying to get information about something, or you're just trying, or you actually like, oh, I'm trying to buy this one thing.
A lot. I would say, and it's not just here in Dallas. Like I've ran into it in El Paso too. Um, but I do feel like I run into it a lot. Like, and like I said, the more expensive or the more complicated the gift that I'm trying to get you is, I think the more I run into it.
Hmm.
Um, I was lucky for like that controller that I ran into a guy at GameStop that was like, "Oh yeah, I definitely know what you're talking about, but we're sold out. There's one that they haven't picked up." And he was like, "But if you want it, if they don't pick it up by, I think he gave me a time, like you would have to come and pick it up." And I was at work and I call him like, "Hey, did they pick it up?" And he's like, "No, they haven't picked it up." I'm like, I'm still at work. I explained that I work down the street from it. And he's like, "Oh yeah, yeah, I know where you work. Yes, I'll hold it for you till you get off work." So like I ran to go get him.
Hmm.
But he was nice enough to tell me, "Yes, this is what we carry. We don't have it, but we'll do you the solid of holding it if they don't pick it up."
So there were in some cases where they do go right and they kind of just say, hey, you know what? I know what you're talking about. It's just really difficult, but we'll see if we can work something out.
And it's finding that person that wants to give that customer service, that understands that it's something special that you're doing and that you really want to,
Hmm.
wants to help you achieve it. Um, your computer thing cover.
Hmm. The computer case,
Yes, that thing.
we call it a case, dear.
That one was another person, but that was also an older gentleman that helped me just order it. They didn't
Hmm.
have it. I stopped and everything at the store, and they didn't have it. And then they just, he's like, "Oh no, don't worry, we'll just order it and have it delivered for you." And he was super helpful because I was. He's like, "Well, what graphics card and what this?" And I was like, "I have no idea." And he just looked at me and was like, "You should have probably asked that." I'm like, "Can you return it?" He's like, "Yeah, he can return it. Just you're gonna have to give him the receipt." I'm like, "Oh yeah, that's fine."
Hmm. Well, but I mean, that was still at least then someone did help you out. Like it wasn't just kind of like, well, come back and when you know the rest of the computers because we don't sell just half baked stuff or something
Which
like
I
that.
would have been fine if he would have like, "Look, we can help you if you want to get it right, but if you want to be accurate, this is what you need to ask."
Hmm.
I would have been great with that. Like, okay, well, tell me what I need to know, and then I'll come back.
Because it gives you what you need to know in order to
Hmm.
kind of make a more informed decision, basically.
Yeah, your camera was a fiasco. Thankfully, you were okay to talk to the people at Best Buy for it. But that one was something that if they would have given me the information, I could have quickly texted you and asked you somehow, right?
Yeah.
The question. Because I think it was a lens.
I mean that one it is hard because it was more of the fact that that was the one time they could have made more money and they just didn't even know about their own sales or promotions. Like they could have sold you more to gonna go with this and make it a full product, and they just like, oh well, I mean, here, take this. So you're done. We're done with you. We got the purchase, and it was just like you could have got another $50 to $100 out just by trying to get this all sell and stuff. And thankfully, when I went down there, they were still willing to give it to me and like explain to them that it was a gift. And it was like, I'll still pay for it. I'm not asking for it for free. But it was just the fact that you've been running this sale for so long and it's well known. And I just don't understand how someone can come and finally get their first camera or something like that. They don't have any other lenses, they don't have any other kind of things, they don't have SD cards. And this is the time that you don't try to upsell it. And
And
it's like that's so weird.
it was like a what, like I think like you said, like $150 more, and I mean it wouldn't break the bank to pay that
Hmm.
for like, oh yeah, like I'm getting the camera that I'm supposed to get and plus blah blah blah. Sure, I'll do that, right?
Yeah.
But that was a perfect example of somebody like oh, well, she's just gonna buy it.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna try to sell her anything else.
And I think we talk about that a lot because the difference between me going to go buy something, you going to go buy something, just like the exact same thing, it's just it's hard for me not to admit that we're not treated differently. Because if I go and I say, well, I want Pokemon Scarlet, they just asked me, what console do you want? And I was like, well, the only console is four, we can, and then we just kind of go down the conversation, blah, blah, blah. Or if I say, well, I want a Gotham Knights. Okay, which one do you want? Blah, blah. They don't try to get me to not go buy any of those games. They don't try to think like, oh, instead of Pokemon, what about Temtem? Or, like they don't try to kind of say like what you want is not what you want to get right now. Get something else, or let me get this for you. And I mean, most people are used to knowing, just being like, oh, do you want to pre-order? Do you want to pre-order? Which can be annoying sometimes, but you understand that's part of their job. They need to ask that. And so if I'm going in there to pre-order anyway, then we're already starting off on a good foot. But something that's would just take me like less than 2 minutes to get resolved and done, pretty much going to the store, say hi to the guy, shake hands, and then go right back out the same way. It surprises me that when you try to do the same thing, it's almost a 20-minute endeavor.
I just feel like those stores are made for people who are treated. Now, I shouldn't say they're made like that, but they're treated as for people who know what they're going to go get, and they don't. Not all, not everybody, because I don't want to generalize. Not everybody that works in those departments or those stores are willing to educate people and say like, why would you get an Apple computer versus a Microsoft computer? Why would you get the Surface versus, an iPad?
Hmm.
They're really not willing to do the pros and cons or the differences for people who don't know. They
Yeah.
want people to go in there and say, this is exactly what I want. This is exactly what I'm looking for. I already did the research. And you're that person. I am not. And I can admit I am not. I'm going to the store to get that service. If I go to that store, I expect them to know the difference between everything that's in there. So if I tell them like, hey, I am buying a new vacuum. What's the difference between this Dyson and that Dyson? And if they can only tell me like it's the size, then I'm gonna be pretty upset.
Yeah. And I think even with that kind of example, if they just say like, well, it's because it's the oversized one, then you kind of understand. But like even for me, I will just go to Nebraska or a GameStop or something and be like, I just want to know about something. I just want to ask a question and just trying to get that information. And there are times where I have to fish it out of some people because some people are really excited, to talk about stuff and really, or like maybe they've been running the show so long that they're like, yeah, this is pretty much my store, and I'll, help you get this and that. And they'll have a conversation with you. And then there's some people who's like, I don't know, I just work here, and it's like, well, that's the point. Like you work here. And it's weird because like a lot of companies, when they change like their job descriptions and stuff, they always change to something that's more helpful than what like the job posted title. Like they're, oh, we're a consultant, we're an associate, we're, you know, uh, market
Yeah.
enthusiast, something like that. That's all like, and our job is to help people, not just sell products. And then you go to them, it's like, okay, well, what's the difference between the PlayStation 4 and the PlayStation 4 Pro? And it's like, well, I don't know. They kind of came up to the same price. Really isn't an acceptable
Yeah.
answer. It's more of like, if you don't know the answer, I mean, you have the computer to look it up and we can kind of go through it together. Like, I'm not asking
And
for an immediate answer. I'm just asking for you to try.
and it's okay to say, I don't know, but let me go find out. That's totally acceptable. When I feel that somebody is telling me I really don't know,
Hmm.
if this does this or not, but let me go find out for you from somebody else, that shows me that they're trying to
Hmm.
get me the answer that I want.
Yeah.
But sometimes I just feel a little discouraged, right?
Hmm.
When they don't even do that part of trying.